All right. Well, Chuck Zamzow. Can I say your last name? Because I love your last name.
Zamzow.
Zamzow. Is it okay to say it on the show?
I don't care. My life's an open book.
Okay. I didn't know if you wanted to be anonymous or not. Because, like, I remember the first time you DM'd me, I think you had listened to Chasing Heroin before, and you were going to listen on Hopeaholics. And you said, Chad will probably say my last name because he likes my last name. And I looked at your last name and I was like, oh, that's a cool last name. Zamzow. I love it. What's your origins? Like, what kind of name is that?
German.
Okay. Oh, right. Yeah, that makes sense.
Mainly German heritage. Actually, my brother, we've been kind of doing some genealogy on it. So I got stuck near like towards the early 1900s right now because of the family history. But what's interesting about our last name, there's that family in Idaho that owns 6 stores after our last name. So we got to be related somewhere in there.
I'm sure, because it's not like common.
No, there's a company in Missouri that has they make tarps and stuff for farming equipment, if I'm not mistaken. I found that out not too long ago. So there's some people I need to contact, and see what's going on.
Dude, that genealogy stuff is so cool. My mom did that for like way back. And actually my dad has too. And it's really cool. It's like kind of nerdy, I guess, but it's so cool to see where you're from, and like my dad is this is so like old retired guy, but he goes around to old cemeteries in the South and he'll take pictures of like, it'll be like Colonel Coulter, who was part of the Confederacy, and he'll take a picture and send it to me. And he's like, that's us. And I'm like, oh my God, but it's cute. It occupies his time, but it's kind of cool to look back and see like where you're from,
Oh, definitely.
So you listen to the show, right? Did you find me through Hopeaholics or did you find Hopeaholics through me?
Actually, I listened to your episode on Hopeaholics.
Okay, cool. Awesome.
So yeah, I would say because when I listened to it, I'm like, she lived in a doghouse. Now that's different. So that's like when I saw the clip, I'm like, okay, I got to watch this because I've seen and listened to a lot of things in the last 16 years in recovery. It's just wicked interesting of all the things that I've listened to on people's stories and where they've come from, where they're at now, and how things are going.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
Yeah, it's super cool.
That's what I appreciate.
Yeah, it's super cool. Well, let's talk about your story, how you got to where you are. You've got 16 years now, you said?
Yeah, my sobriety date or recovery date, however you want to put it, it's August 2nd, 2008. So I recently celebrated last month.
Damn, that's a long time.
Yeah. Yes, I'm mainly just an alcoholic. Just recovering alcoholic. I did not get in. I don't want people taking this the wrong way. I did not get into the drugs, the recreational drugs and stuff like that, even though in the raves in the 90s and stuff I used to go to. And I've seen a lot of things get exchanged. I've seen a lot of other things happen, but it just didn't interest me.
Why did you you never wanted to like take an ecstasy pill or snort a line of Coke or anything, even if you were drunk? Why not?
No. I see too many people die real quick. I think it was a scare factor. Like, okay, am I going to play? I mean, I'm playing Russian roulette with alcohol too. So, I mean, I didn't know, it just didn't attract me. So it's not that I'm special. I mean, I just look at it like that was real taboo.
Yeah.
For some reason.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to explain.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was smart, right? Smarter. And I knew your story was just alcohol because you had told me that, which was actually kind of one of the reasons why I wanted to interview you, because we have a lot of addicts, but a lot of just alcoholics listen to the show. And so, like my husband has said before, he's like, it's important to get the people on that are just like incredible alcoholics, just drunks, because there are a lot of people out there. And I'm like, you're right, totally. Like all the story will reach someone, So let's talk about how you got to raves in the 90s being drunk. Where are you from?
I'm not originally from Illinois, actually. I'll kind of go backtrack if you don't mind. I grew up in the East Coast in a little town called Dover, New Hampshire. That's where I'm originally from. As a kid, how can I explain this? I got an older brother, twin sister, an older sister. My father's also in recovery too. So I've never really seen his bad days like the other, my older siblings have. But I do know towards the end of his run, I have seen a couple glimpses. So it wasn't pretty. I grew up in a middle class home. It wasn't like we were poor. It wasn't like we were rich. In the 80s, I'm a Gen X kid. In the 80s, we grew up quick. the reason why I want to go back to this kind of gives some kind of context of how it developed who I am and where it came into play with alcohol. You know, growing up in the 80s, you know, especially my mom, she was working a lot. My dad was starting to travel back out because what he does for work, he was traveling a lot. So nobody was really home. So my older brother, I'll give him a lot of credit. He actually kind of raised me in a sense. But I also got to see things and experience things that I think a lot of kids never really had at the time growing up, especially where my relatives live in Maryland. So we would travel up and down I-95 a lot. So we'd go to New York, New Jersey, and stuff like that. And seeing things like cars on blocks being burned up, just things that you probably don't want to see as a kid. You're asking your dad, like, what's going on over there, you know? Oh, don't look at that. Just look away.
Wait,
you know?
Why would that happen?
I think at that time in the 80s, I think New York wasn't that good.
Right, okay. New York is where you would see that.
Yeah, when we would travel through, like, the George Washington Bridge, we would travel through that area. You know, we would see a lot of just stuff like that. People just panhandling. It wasn't good, but then again, it brought my awareness a lot better, too, as a kid. I'm grateful I got around a lot of guys that I like to barter a lot as an adult now, too. I like to barter and try to exchange things. And
oh, that's so cool.
It kind of plays in my favor.
Like Gary Vee.
Yeah, I learned it as a kid because I was the kid in the neighborhood with the bikes. I always used to play with BMX bikes a lot, so I'd be building them and tearing them down and all that stuff as a kid. So all my buddies would come over like, hey, I need that. I said, well, what are you going to give me for it? So we just started making deals as a young kid.
Oh, that's really
so I started
cool.
learning how to do that. And, you know, I had a paper when I was a kid, too. I'm not saying my childhood was bad completely, but we had a tight-knit group in that neighborhood where I grew up at. And I thoroughly enjoyed it as a kid, but then I was somewhat of a loner, too. I didn't have a lot of friends. I didn't really hang out with a whole lot of group of people. I like to keep to myself a lot as a kid. So I think that set a lot of things up growing up. You know, we moved out here to Illinois, late 91. So I was like 8th grade-ish here. I did not fit in at all. You know, coming from the East Coast, you had this weird accent. I couldn't say my R's right. And I still can't today sometimes. And when you get me going in a conversation with somebody, it'll come out.
Wait, your R's?
And my buddies always joke. Yeah, like if I say car.
Oh!
Like everybody will say car, I'll say car.
I love that, though. Do you appreciate that you have that accent now, though? Because it's kind of cool.
Oh, yeah. I don't care. I think it's funny.
It's like The Departed.
Cool, so.
You're like the guys from The Departed.
Yeah.
Right? Kind of.
Yeah, kind of. My buddy at work always makes fun of me. He jokes with me a lot about it. And I just laugh with him. I don't take it too serious like I used to.
But when you're a kid, that's like embarrassing, right?
Yeah, to a degree. I mean, I moved out here. It was like a culture shock out here in Illinois at the time. I think they're trying to figure me out like I'm trying to figure them out. It's like two aliens looking at each other. You know, like, who are you and who are you and this and that. And I eventually started making friends, but the thing is I made friends with the wrong people. I always gravitated towards people that were in gangs. I always gravitated toward people that were in trouble. Even though I didn't want to get in trouble, I knew how not to get in trouble. I knew how to manipulate that pretty well. But I seen everybody else do it. So I'm like, well, I'm not going to do what he's doing. I'm not going to do what that person's doing. So I knew how to stay out of the...
Why do you think you gravitated towards people in gangs? And what age are we talking about?
I'd say 14, 15, 16, all the way up until I graduated. I was like that in high school, too. I liked the lifestyle, especially down in this area. It wasn't very prominent yet until later on in the 90s, early 2000s. But I got along with people better from the city than I did here. I always made friends with people that came down from like Aurora, Joliet, the suburbs of Chicago, and some friends of mine were from Chicago, the South Side, and I made friends with them so much faster. I don't know if it was because of relatability from where I used to live, because I only lived like maybe an hour north of Boston. So I don't know if it was that per se, but maybe I understood some of the city life and understanding what they were coming from.
Right, okay.
And I'm a huge hip-hop, house music, techno fan, so I always listen to a lot of that music, and I still DJ. Like, I DJ today and still do stuff today with it.
You DJ?
Oh, yeah.
Like events or making mashups and stuff that you put on SoundCloud?
No, I have put stuff on SoundCloud before.
Oh, cool.
But I don't do a whole lot of mashups. I'm kind of like I just like doing straight out mixes.
Okay.
Just pick certain music. I do a lot of it in my head, so I don't really write a lot of stuff down. But I've been DJing since, 98-ish? I've always wanted to DJ. I was always fascinated when I first saw Jam Master Jay from Run DMC. I was always fascinated with turntables and all that. Even though I tried playing saxophone, trumpet, and all the wind instruments, I still like all that stuff too because I love jazz.
Yeah.
That was another avenue in my life, I still do today.
That's really cool.
Even when I was in my addiction and not.
I ask because I love the DJs on SoundCloud that make mashups and remixes. I want to go to your SoundCloud because I use them for spin, especially if you've done like 90s hip hop mashups or remixes. I need your SoundCloud before we're done so I can go look at your stuff. I might use it.
Sure. If I have a mashup, if not.
Or remixes.
That's something I'm going to probably get back into.
Yeah, or remixes. Yeah.
That's something I'm probably going to get back into later this year for sure.
Yeah, that's really cool.
I kind of put it on the back burner for a while, but going through high school was actually kind of I'll put it in the letters, it was a pain in the butt. I call it, today people have safe spaces. We didn't have safe spaces. We didn't have any of that. So I had to deal with a lot of things straight up and get it done. And being able to deal with another human being. And it probably wasn't in the healthiest manner either. I had a lot of resentments towards a lot of people. And I had a huge chip on my shoulder going through high school.
From what? What do you mean?
Martial arts, just being made fun of, not being accepted. I was always on that outskirt. And it's not that I wanted to be in the popular crew or that they would call it the popular. I didn't want to be in that. I didn't want to be the run of the mill. I always wanted to be the different guy that did something different all the time. So I did get into martial arts in high school because I always wanted to get into it. And I stuck with that until probably my mid-20s. So I didn't even touch alcohol until I was 21-ish. That's the strange thing that some people kind of look back, even in the recovery rooms, like, you waited that long? I said, well, when your father's a recovering alcoholic and you understand his past life, you're like, I don't want to be like that. And I said that many times. I don't want to be like that guy. But unfortunately, I turned out to be that guy. I'm the only one out of the 4 kids that turned out that way. Strange, but...
Let me ask you this, though. How did you do in school, high school, and did you go to college, or what were your career goals, if you had any? What was that like for you academically?
I probably could have applied myself better and been a much above average student if I really wanted to. I didn't really like applying myself on a lot of stuff. I kind of got lazy, even though I knew how to do it. But I am also a mechanic today. I work on big trucks and trailers and stuff. I've been in that business since '97. Worked on automotive stuff and everything. Started out. I always worked with my hands, so I knew what to do best. I got in where I fit in. If I knew what I was doing, not that I couldn't read, and I'll get to that too. That reading was a big part too, where I got embarrassed a lot in school because I didn't like to read. Because I don't know if I had dyslexia. Just like ADHD, I think I had some of ADHD because they stuck me in special ed classes in school, even though that most of the teachers like, you don't belong here because why are you here? I'm like, I don't know. They just stuck me here, because I'm like, I don't know. They didn't know where to put me because I'm that kid that couldn't sit in the chair very long. So reading was a big part too, because if I read something screwed up, I always thought I just screwed up everything, got really embarrassed. So I wouldn't read in front of anybody. So now when I go to meetings, I do a 12 and 12 on Mondays. So I force myself to read. Even though I screw up, I just keep reading. So I was pretty much an average kid in school. So then I went to tech school by Chicago and then moved back down this way after I was done. And I've been in this area pretty much ever since then. But as far as getting into the alcohol, I hung around with other guys hung around with probably the wrong people too after high school. I was pretty straightforward average kid. I was kind of like that. I was the kid that the moms would want their sons to hang out with because I didn't get into trouble. I didn't do anything stupid, even though I didn't tell them I would. I'd do it anyways because I, mischievous as I was. But getting into alcohol, I didn't even do it until I was 21. It was basically just something like, well, I'll try it. Everybody, and I didn't get into like marijuana and stuff. I was around everybody. They were hot boxing in rooms and stuff like that at the time. And I'm like, I don't like this either. It just didn't really appease me.
Were you a beer guy? You seem like a beer guy.
Beer, vodka, rum.
Yeah. Rum? Oh, mainly. That's funny. That surprises me. Rum's good though, It's like one of the only alcohols that's like good.
I had a bad experience.
Yeah. So how did it start to escalate? And what did your early drinking look like? And then, how did it escalate?
Well, my early drinking was recreational. It was like, okay, we'll go over somebody's house. Boone's Farm was the first stuff I ever tried. Everybody, Mad Dog 2020, Boone's Farm.
My first drink was Mad Dog Grape. Mad Dog 2020 grape flavor.
Oh.
Yeah.
Whew.
Uh-huh.
It's like vapor trails when you're done.
Totally. Just so like Gen X too. It's so different from now. Like I was in a van. I was in a back of a van with no, like a white van.
Got down by the river?
Yeah, basically. And we would go to Stone Mountain in Georgia. And this is wild that this actually happened. My friend Noelle was going to Tulane, or not Tulane, somewhere in New Orleans. And she was back for summer and she was 18. And at that time, you could drink in New Orleans when you were 18. But we were in Georgia and we stopped at a gas station on the way to Stone Mountain. And she went inside with her Louisiana ID and convinced the guy at the liquor store to sell her alcohol, even though we were in Georgia, because she was able to drink in her home state. So like, why couldn't she drink here? And he bought it and he sold her a bunch of Mad Dog. And that would never happen now. You know what I mean? And I remember her coming back to the van and she was like, and she wanted to be an actress too. And she was like, I'm going to win an Oscar, y'all. I totally just made this work. And she hopped in the van and we were all like, woo, like high-fiving in the back of this like van on our way to Stone Mountain. And that was the first thing I drank was Mad Dog. Ugh. Yeah. But that was what it was back then. Boone's and Mad Dog. In ways it was great. Like it's gross, but it was great, you know?
It did the job. That's how I'll put it.
Right.
I mean, it was recreational stuff that I would do, go to parties, hang out, do just, normal. I would say normal to a lot of people that would drink a half a drink and put it down. But I would always drink all and then leave. So I never really left anything unfinished. I got married actually at the age of 21-ish, 22. Me and my ex-wife, we got married in Las Vegas. Traveled out there, got married. Some of the family went out. My brother, he was the best man. Got married, bought a house. This is kind of like the dream. This is kind of like I got the world by the balls. I'll put it that way at that age. Working 2 jobs. I was a mechanic, and then I was actually getting out DJing on the weekends here and there for a company that's no longer here no more, but I still know the gentleman that ran it. Doing that, life was going okay. And I noticed some traits in myself now that I look back. There were some traits that were alcoholic traits. Now, did I pick them up from somebody? Don't know. Was it already set there? Don't know. I didn't know how to answer that either. But in the whole process of that year and a half, caught my ex-wife cheating on me. Oh,
shit.
And I get to that point, when I caught her, I was following her around for 2 weeks.
No.
And I didn't tell anybody this. So you're like the first person you're like one of the first people that's ever heard this part of my story on this. Because I knew something was wrong. And you know how your intuitions and all that. And my buddy I hung out with, that I still know to this day, we were walking around one night. And this is the early 2000s. You're able to go do stuff that you couldn't do today. Walk around in town late at night and stuff like that. Not really get stopped by the cops or something. She sees this guy, and I've never met him before. And she got all excited, and my buddy's looking at me, and I'm looking at him, and we're like, something's not jiving here. I'm like, well, she wouldn't come home for certain nights, and I'm like, well, where the hell are you at? What are you doing? What's going on? So then my red flags are going up. So then I started following her around off and on. She didn't even know it. I was pretty slick about it, I'll say that. Not saying I'm proud of it, but it's set up for what was to come after. Within that time, I lost my job within that time because there was just a lot of things going on. So I wasn't focused on the things that I should have been focused on, doing stuff in life. So within that 2-week span, I lost the job, caught her, and I'm heaving. I was about ready to heave a lot of stuff out the door that night because I'm like, what the hell? What did I do wrong? What accumulated this? What did I do?
How did you catch her? Do you mind if I ask? And thank you, by the way, for sharing this story. It's clearly still hard to talk about all these years later. And so I really appreciate you sharing it.
Yeah.
And you're going to be glad ultimately that you spoke about it. Like that's usually my experience with my guests that share something for the first time. It's like this scary thing that they didn't ever want to talk about. And then when you do, typically there's some relief, but I don't want to push your boundaries either. So if you're cool sharing how you caught her, but you certainly don't have to.
Yeah. I had a little Chevette. You remember those cars, right?
No. What is that?
I remember a Chevette. You don't know what that is?
No. What is that?
That was an old Chevy car back in the 80s.
Okay.
It was I bought this car for like $50.
What?
Off this guy I used to work with at the dealership. Yeah.
You bought it for $50?
There was nothing wrong with it. Yeah. My brother would tell me, before I get back to it, my brother always said this: you can stick me in a bottle full of nipples, he would come out with none, and I would come out with one.
That's awesome. Yeah.
So I was always the guy that would end up in the right place at the right time for some kind of deal. I don't know how, and it still happens too, and I can't explain it. But I remember she was babysitting somebody's kid, and they were friends. I'm like, well, I'm going to go check this out. So one night I drove up, parked down the street, walked up, and then I looked over in one of the windows. And I'm like, what are they doing? So the guy that she was messing with, they were going back and forth in each room. So I would switch from one window to another window, from one window to another window. And all of a sudden they meet up and start kissing. And I'm like, my blood was boiling. I'm like, well, you guys just got caught. And all of a sudden I see him turn around looking at the window like, oh shit. And she's the same way. And I'm like, you're done and you're dead.
Oh my
So
gosh.
she come running outside saying, this is the first time. And I said, that didn't look like the first time to me. I just got in the car and left. I said, you got X amount of time to get your stuff, go. I ain't got time for this.
And you were what, 22, 23?
23, if I believe, if I remember right now.
Dude, the impact of that must have been so traumatic. To see it is traumatizing.
It was. I don't want to wish on anybody to catch somebody doing that. It was a kick in the dick. I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
It was just like, you think there to yourself, like, how did I fail this? Why did I fail this? How did I fail my job that I just got let go from? How am I going to explain that? So that night, I went over to my buddy Steve's house, and he was living with his mom at the time. And a friend of mine, Eddie, was with him. And they were downstairs talking. I'm like, hey, guys, I got to talk to you about something. Because I didn't know who to talk to. I didn't know what to do. I probably should have went and talked to my parents, but I did. Maybe I should have went and say, hey, I'm going through this. What do you guys think I should do? Well, I didn't. I went there. They had a half a bottle of Everclear and half a bottle of this peach liqueur, I don't know what it was. And I said, I explained to them what happened, and they're all looking at me like, what? They didn't know what to say either. They're just like, what's going on? So I picked both of them up. I said, F it. Done. I just started drinking. That was the point and the turn right there that I said alcohol was the best way for me to check out. Just check out and be done and escape. That was my escape. The gym wasn't my escape no more. I just started going that less. Martial arts wasn't my escape anymore. Got away from that. Started practicing all these unhealthy habits. And I was on unemployment for probably 3 months because I knew how to find work. I'm a mechanic. I know how to wheel and deal and try to find something to make a couple bucks. It's not that, to me, it wasn't that hard. It's not. I said, you know what? I'm going to take a few months off. I'm going to try to regroup myself. But in the meantime, I didn't. I went to the bar with my buddies every Wednesday, every Friday. I started going to this one place here in town. I always went and drank outside of town where I lived at. I didn't drink in Ottawa where I lived at the time. I always went to LaSalle, this other town called LaSalle, Peru. It's two towns kind of mixed into one. I would always go out of town and drink. I would not drink in my own town. So there's a premise I'm setting up here. So, and I think some people in recovery that are alcoholic would understand. I think might get what I'm doing. I would always come over here because I felt more at home. I felt like I escaped from Ottawa. I escaped from this place. I'll go check out over here. So we would do that for 3 months, just party, 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 party. Well, there was one day where my parents came over to my house, and I had a table, an end table with 40s, all empty bottles, thinking it was a shrine. This was the best thing I thought it was in the world. And my dad walks in, he looks down, he goes, what the hell's this? Oh, that's just nothing. I was trying to count it discontented, like, oh, that's nothing. Well, why do you have all these empty bottles of liquor here? I'm like, trying to think of something real quick to say. And I'm like, well, I had a party last night and some people over here. Well, they've been there for months. That was something where I thought was the best thing I could have a landmark of. Well, I felt really, really demoralized when my dad and mom saw it because I knew something was going on in their head. Like, something's not right here. Is he falling off the rails? Is he doing something he shouldn't be doing? Being that my dad's in recovery, he could see BS probably a mile away seeing that. So that's where a lot of downward spiral was. I couldn't pay my bills on time. I was changing jobs a lot at that time because I thought somebody was out to get me at work. Like, this guy's making fun of me or he doesn't like me, so I'm going to go to this other job. So I would switch jobs like for a 2-year span or almost 3-year span there from 2003 to 2005. I would change probably 6 jobs.
Wow. Okay.
Easily.
I have a few questions here. So, what did you tell your parents about the divorce? Because I feel like your family is probably really important, like family values, because them seeing the bottles was so impactful on you. What did you tell them about the divorce? And were you afraid to tell your parents, hey, we're splitting up? It's only been a year and a half and we're divorcing. What was their response? Like, what did you say?
I'm actually closer to my mom than my dad because he traveled a lot. I sat down and talked
You
to my
told her
mom
the
about
truth.
it.
You said she was cheating on
But
me.
yeah, I told her what was going on, at least my side of the story. I explained it to her. I probably could have said more. I probably could have asked more, but I didn't because I said, well, I got this. I can figure this out. I can figure all this out on my own. Don't worry about it. I'm a grown man. At least I thought at the time.
You mentioned some alcoholic behaviors that you look back on and you see now before you started drinking real heavily. Like what kind of stuff? What do you mean?
Being very resentful, being very selfish, always has to be right. I have to be right. Couldn't trust nobody. Could not trust nobody. I couldn't even trust myself. I remember a saying I heard, you can't trust yourself, you can't trust anybody else. And that stuck with me for a while. I heard that from some guy when I lived out on the East Coast. I think that stuck with me. I think that to me was somewhat of an alcoholic behavior.
Yeah. What do you mean by can't trust yourself? Like you can't count on yourself to do the right thing? What is that? What does that mean?
I'm very hard on myself. So that's why I try to reinforce positive attitude every morning when I get up. Basically, can't count on things. I'm not accountable. Trying to explain it to the best way I can to have somebody understand. I just feel less than that, if that makes
like low
sense.
self-esteem, basically.
Yeah. Sometimes, like a DJ mix, I put it out. I'm like, that sounds like shit. And everybody's like, dude, what is wrong with you? That is like the best thing I've heard in a while. Why aren't you going out doing this? I'm like, I don't know. And I do that. Sometimes I still do it today. So I got to be careful with that.
So your parents come over, they see all the bottles, and then you said things start to spiral. So what starts to happen from there?
Start doing the blackouts here and there. I didn't know how to pay bills with this shit. I always get the pink slip in the mail for the electric or the gas or this. I didn't have a house phone, so nobody can get a hold of me. I wasn't prioritizing my money to the important things that should have been done, and I'd always try to get money from my parents to help pay a bill that I'm 2 months behind on, and then turn around, get a check, and then go party and go do this. It was insane. It was the most insane behavior I've ever thought I could ever do, because I always wanted to go out and try to be the center of the attention at places where I went. And I usually went alone. I would go to the bars alone a lot of times. My buddies were like, why are you going alone? I said, because I want to. I want to be by myself. Well, why didn't you ask me to go? I'm like, well, you weren't there, so I went by myself. And I just check out. It was easy to do. It was easy to make friends with somebody sitting next to me paying for a drink or two, or buy the whole line down the bar, the same thing, It was easy to do that.
So that's what you would do? You would buy drinks and stuff?
Sometimes, yeah, just to BS with people. And it was lonely. It was really lonely. I'll put it that way. I was in a place where I don't want to go back. Really. This is the first time around as far as the behavior. I was dating a lady at the same time too, and I put her through hell. I'll be honest. I put her through hell. It was her first major relationship too. And lo and behold, she gets stuck with a guy like me. And I'm like, and I felt bad screwing it up on her. We dated for like 3 years, and her mom, I don't think really liked me because I couldn't manage my money worth of hell. I'd just be putting my money on other things I shouldn't have, not saying, hey, maybe we should get engaged. Maybe we should get married. Maybe we should, this, and her mom's like, well, you've been dating for 3 years. Why didn't you marry my daughter? I'm like, I don't know. I don't want to get married again. I think that upset her, but that was part of my 8th and 9th step, which I'll explain too. So I put the bottle down first time in late 04. I started going to Alcoholics Anonymous because I started asking my dad about it. I'm like, Dad, I think I got a problem. So he's like, well, if you think you got a problem, well, go to a couple of meetings and sit in and see if you think you belong there. And this is where pride and ego comes in. I used to work up in Joliet, Naperville, and this is a suburb area about an hour from where I used to live. So I would always go to meetings at a place in Joliet, and it was called the Bridge of Gap meeting. It was down in the basement, and they still had inpatient people coming in from, detox and everything coming down. So I show up to my meeting and I'm bawling my eyes out, I gotta stop and I gotta, I just wanted to get somebody off my back, honestly. But I genuinely somewhat wanted to stop too because I think I had an issue. Well, I did, but in my mind, I thought. There's a gentleman by the name of Mike H. I think he's passed away now. He's just like, hey, Chuck, can you sit back, shut up, and smile today? So I'm looking at him like, did this guy just say this to me? He's like, how old are you? I said, I'm 24. So I'm like, all right. So I sat down, and I listened to the meeting, and they asked me to talk, and I'm bawling my eyes out, like I said. I leave the meeting. So I stayed dry for 6 months. Didn't get a sponsor. Didn't work the steps. Didn't care to work the steps. And the girlfriend left me eventually anyways. So I stayed dry for that 6 months. I was at a party, and they had alcohol there, and I'm looking at it. I'm like, well, what does it matter? I had one beer, and after I had it, I looked at myself, what in the hell did you just do? So this is where the seed was planted in that meeting, like, why did I just do this, even though I shouldn't have done it? So I still kept going back to that meeting after the fact, but never admitted to anybody around the table that I went back out and drank. So I hid that with myself, that guilt, up until I came back the second time around. But in that time, I'm not trying to jump around too much, but I'm trying to make context of it, that I got into bodybuilding more. So I've always loved it, and I've always wanted to do a bodybuilding show. So I was overweight, considerable. I'm like, you know what the hell? Let me try one. So I lost, 70 pounds total for the first show. So I did my first show in November of 2005. Loved it. And I knew a lot of the promoters. I knew a lot of these people were from my dad, that he was in bodybuilding too. So he knew a lot of the judges and the people. And it's not because I wanted the judges to give me better scores or anything. I just knew everybody. So it wasn't like I was a first timer in there. So I'm like, well, if I do this, I can stay away from the drink. So I'm trading one addiction for another. I made bodybuilding an addiction, kind of an addictive thing, where if I stayed away from the drink and do this, I'll be all right. So I didn't do really any meetings, probably a year. And I would just show up to Joliet. I never went to any meetings down by where I lived at, because I didn't want nobody seeing my car out in front of an AA meeting at all. Maybe it was a stigma. Maybe to me, it was pride and ego. It wasn't really a stigma to me. It was just pride and ego. I don't want nobody to see it. I'm like, well, if they see that, then I'm a label as an alcoholic. So I did shows up until, I did it my addiction and recovery too. And it was different because I dated another woman, and it was an unhealthy relationship. And I was always attracted to the unhealthy women for some reason, the crazy ones and the ones that just didn't have their shit together, because I didn't. So I dated her, caught her messing with a man.
Oh my God.
And this was during a prep for a show, one of the shows I did 2 or 3 times in the fall. I was midway through prep, caught her cheating on me. I'm like, well, whatever, screw it. I know where else I can fall back to. So I focused everything on the gym from that point until I did the day of the show. Was it unhealthy? Probably. Was it healthy to a standpoint of me maybe, being healthy as a human? Yeah. But it wasn't healthy, man. It just wasn't. Because I had tunnel vision. I didn't want to look at anything else. I didn't care about my family. I didn't care about anything. I just looked at tunnel vision. I got to do this show. That's it. I don't care about anything else.
Well, I think a lot of us can make things sub-addictions, or whatever, a different addiction, a substitute addiction. And you're right, it can be healthy, and fitness is a common one. But what you just said, I think, is key. If it's impeding the progress of your life somehow, or if it's impeding your life, like your social connections, then that's how you know it's problematic, I think, right? If it's stopping you from, talking to someone, I think that's how you know, because you can get really obsessive about something and become successful at it. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a maladaptive addiction. It can be something that you're a little bit obsessive about, but it's preventing you from progressing in other areas of your life. And it sounds like for you, prep was at that time. And just so the audience knows too, because I know what prep is. Prep is this really intense period of time. It's very difficult, right? Where you're only eating like really specific things, and it's incredibly strict and restrictive around food. And it's just a really challenging thing to do, right?
It's taken me places I don't think a lot of people ever want to go.
What do you mean by that?
Mentally, where I thought I couldn't do certain things, I did it. I pushed my mental state, I pushed it to the extreme when I was in the gym, talking with others. I had a great workout partner, Skip, and that guy was such a good dude. He taught me some things that I probably should have listened to more. but I pushed myself mentally on things that physically I didn't think I could do. That makes sense. Push myself mentally to where certain things that I did want to eat, I didn't. So did I learn a lot from myself on that aspect? Yes. Oh yeah. I know where my threshold is today as far as certain things when it comes to that aspect. Would I go there again? I don't know. I've seen it. I know what it looks like. I know how it feels not like what people want. It's very uncomfortable.
How did you do in shows? Like, did you do okay?
My best one was third place.
Oh, cool. Okay.
And I mean, I completed natural up to a certain extent. And I'm going to be honest, because this is an honest program. I didn't get into the injectable PEDs. I didn't like needles. I don't. For some strange reason, I got 2 tattoos, and I don't like needles. It's just like me coming on here talking with you today. If I can go in front of 500 to 1,000 people in a Speedo, I think I can talk to somebody on a podcast.
Totally.
I mean, come on.
Totally.
So, I mean, it's not embarrassing. I don't care, because for me, bodybuilding was the posing. I didn't care. I mean, the prep, the training, the posing to me was the most artistical form for me.
That's cool. Yeah.
You know, that was the fluid for me. I always loved the posing. Like, I could talk about bodybuilding all day with somebody. Like Ed Corney, an old bodybuilder from the 70s, his posing was just beautiful. Kai Green, Bob Harris was one of the first bodybuilders I saw that I was like, dude, he's got the greatest silhouette. Flex Wheeler. I love them all, but when it comes to that perfect mixture, those were the guys that come to my mind. So I always concentrated on posing a lot. And that was the bread and butter, because I worked 16, 20 weeks to show you what I did. Why the hell am I going to go up there and half-ass something? So that was my mentality. I'm not going to half-ass that for somebody and be like, oh, I'll come up here, hit a couple poses and see you later. I want to show somebody what I did. So that's where I think it transpires to, for me in recovery too. The best place was third place. My buddy, Big B, they call him Ernie B. Super nice guy. And I competed up until 2008, until my accident. I'll get to that in a sec. I didn't drink up until the night of the one show I did in the spring of April of 2007. Never touched a lick of alcohol, didn't have no issue. I didn't want to touch it. Because I'm training. That's evil to me. I can't do that. But I would still go to bars. I'd still go to places. I'd still go hang out. They're all like, "You're not going to drink?" I'm like, "Nope. I got the show in my head. I got this going on." We get done doing the show, and I'll tell you this: I was so depleted that night. The lady goes, "What would you like to drink?" And I looked over at her. I said, "I want that pitcher of beer and a glass next to me, please." And I ordered food. And from that night on, for a whole year, it was nothing but endless spiral of BS. If you think it could got worse, it got worse. It didn't happen overnight, but it happened gradually. Like, okay, I'll go out tonight. Oh, I'll go out again tomorrow. I'll go this. I'll go do that. I'll stop and go get a couple 40s. Because I graduated up to malt liquor. I loved malt liquor. Whether it was Old English, Mickey's, Colt 45 was in, stuff like that. But those were the two main bread and butter at the end. I didn't care for the hard liquor as much in the end, but there's another part of my story I haven't really talked about either, actually, with anybody except my sponsor that passed away. There was a woman I dated, this is towards the end, because my life was unmanageable. I did so many crazy things. When I worked down in Florida, I blacked out drunk one night. Well, came to the next morning in the hotel room, and I didn't even know how the hell I got there. That's how bad it was getting at the end. I would wake up during the middle of a blackout, slam the brakes on my car, like, what the hell's going on? And I'm like, what am I doing? Because that's when I was living down the street from where I used to work at the time. So I started dating this woman, and she got pregnant. I'm like, okay, I was getting ready to do a prep for early 2008. I still did the prep, still did the show. Didn't look as good as I usually did because I was starting to dabble back into the alcohol, obviously, and that kind of took over the denominator. Well, I'd say about 4 months into our relationship, she's like, well, after she got pregnant, she's like, I want an abortion. So I was sitting here like, well, is this my kid? Is this not my kid? What's going on here? And then I'm like, I'm devastated, but I'm like asking 100 questions at the same time. So I asked her, I said, why do you want an abortion? She said, I don't want the kid. Okay. I'm like, well, I can't really approve of that, but it's your body. I can't tell you, no, you can't do this, even though I want to. And I looked at her and said, I don't want you to do this, but I'm not the one carrying this thing in my belly. You know what I'm saying? And I was torn. I was very, very torn at the time. And this is part of the story I've never really told, actually, but maybe a few people. I even told my, I should call her my wife now, Violet. I've told her, and she didn't have the money. She only had half the money. She's asking me for the part of the money. And I'm sitting here like, I looked at her, I'm like, I really don't want to give you the money. I don't jive with this. This is not what I grew up in. This isn't my value. She's like, well, if you don't give me the money, I'm still going to do it anyway. And I looked right at her and I'm like, reluctantly handed her some money. Was it a bad thing on my part? Some people probably would say yes. Some people would be like, well, probably not. I don't know. There's only one person that will judge me at the end on that one. And she ended up getting it done. And when I found out, that right there, that's when I spiraled really bad into drinking. I kind of drank a lot more. Because I didn't talk to anybody about it. Because I didn't know who to talk to about it. It really screwed me up really bad.
When you say not the right choice, you mean like morally, you feel like you contributed to... Okay, that's what I was wondering. This is really interesting. I've never spoken to, I don't think in my whole life, a man on the other side of this issue and what they maybe would have wanted. You know what I mean? So you really struggled with this decision. Okay. Wow.
It still kind of chokes me up today, I'll be honest with you.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
So I decided to say, well, I'll just check out with some more alcohol here and there. Isolate myself from people here and there too. Go to the gym, go to work, isolate, don't talk to many people. And I didn't really talk to a whole lot of my family either, to tell you the truth. I think my brother kind of knew something was wrong too. I'm not sure. And me and my sister, my twin sister Roberta, our relationship wasn't very good at that point either because of her situations in life. So we didn't really talk that much either. I didn't really reach out to my older sister. And I really didn't talk to my father. I had very sporadic behavior towards my father, very resentful behavior, which wasn't good. I remember a few times I would yell at him, just didn't care, which wasn't right. But I do remember the night on my accident, this is where things start to change. Went out, got a picture of some kind of booze. I don't know what the hell it was. After 10 o'clock at night, I couldn't tell you what happened. But I will tell you, and anybody listening on this one, I remember going through my accident. I came to in the middle of a blackout in my accident. That is the most effed up feeling you'll ever have in your life. I remember the car, I remember the steering wheel holding on to it, and I remember the crash and the breaking of glass when it happened. I must have passed back out, and I came to, and I must have called my ex-wife, because I was starting to build a relationship with her just as a friend, being friends again. I must have called her, and she must have called the ambulance or somebody. I came to in an ambulance with this white light. I thought I was dead. I don't know. I thought I was dead, to tell you the truth. I passed back out, came to in the hospital, saw the white light again. I thought I was dead until I saw a nurse, and I turned over and threw up on the floor next door because of whatever I drank that night. My father and mother were outside, along with my older sister outside the emergency room. And I remember my dad distinctively saying, "That's me laying right there." That's pretty heavy, dude.
Meaning he relates to you as an alcoholic, or like you're his son? That's like my world laying right there.
Yeah.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Take your time. You heard him say that?
Yeah. I was going to try to get emotional today. Shit.
But you know what? No, but Chuck, this is actually really good because it shows the family value structure that you have. These are the moments of your story that when you look back on are so emotional for you. The family seeing the bottles, the termination of the pregnancy, this moment with your parents, like obviously family structure is one of the things that was the most important to you. And that's like evident by what you look back on as, and I think that's probably why your wife cheating on you was so devastating. That's the disintegration of the family. You know what I mean? What did you hit in the accident?
Well, I'm lucky I'm actually sitting here today talking with you. I always tell people here in the meetings that I go to, I say, well, if you ever want to know, well, they fixed the sign since then. I missed a telephone pole by about a foot and hit the guide wire that holds it up. part of the guide wire. I hit the turn sign because you come up on the road and you got to make a right. I decided to go straight through. Luckily, by the grace of God, I didn't hurt anybody else. It was just me. But I did have a pretty serious injury that I didn't realize until I came home that morning. My upper palate here was a clean break straight across. So this was moving.
The bones?
I hit the steering wheel so hard.
The bones in your face?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I didn't even know those could break, but obviously they can. They're bones.
Oh,
did they know you were drunk?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, because they took blood there because they didn't give me a DUI or anything there yet because I couldn't breathe. I couldn't do a breathalyzer.
Right.
So they drew blood at the hospital so they could send it in. So the officer that showed up, Mr. Rolson, who's the sergeant now for Ottawa, he was the first guy on scene, and I knew him very well. So for him to see me like that had to be like an experience on his end as a cop and as a friend too, because I knew him.
How did you know him?
Through the gym when we trained, and him being a local cop too, I got to know him. He kind of reminded me of my brother in a sense, because my brother was a correctional officer at one point in his life. So I kind of, the correlation was there, and the way they were built the same. My brother was built like a bull, so he's kind of built the same way. And that morning coming home, oh God, I was lucky I still had my job because I was supposed to go to work the next morning. So they called my boss. My boss understood, and Randy, that guy, I love him, man. Him and the other guy that was my boss let me have my job still because they pulled me in the office to say, hey, man, what happened? So I told them, I'm like, guys, I got drunk, got in an accident, DUI. Okay, well, don't let it happen again. We're going to let you have your job. So that right there was a blessing. That's at God moments that are starting to happen because I didn't go to meetings right away because I had to go get wires for my mouth. So this had to be all wired shut for about 6 weeks to 8 weeks.
What do you eat?
So I couldn't talk. I was eating, I ate 3 McDonald's shakes a day and I blended up some stuff.
Oh my gosh.
So I was eating that much, but I sustained my weight though. I didn't lose weight really.
You couldn't
and
talk?
I kept my weight.
No words at all?
Well, I'll put it this way. I could talk like this with you like this and my teeth stood still. And I learned how to do that as a service writer, as a service advisor in a dealership.
Oh my gosh.
So I had to talk with people all the time.
Oh my gosh.
So I learned, I was basically a mime.
Yeah.
But talking.
Yeah. So wait, when did they come arrest you for DUI and what was your blood alcohol?
I was never arrested.
Oh, okay. Or when did you get the DUI ticket or however that proceeded?
Well, in Illinois, at the time in 2008, when they drew blood, it takes 6 months, 4 to 6 months to come back with the results.
Geez. Okay.
Because I got a lawyer. I went and got a lawyer and all that stuff. Even though I played, I'm going to pay. And I told the lawyer that. So it took about 6 months. It was in January to get that back. My blood alcohol was almost 2.0, somewhere around there. It was really high. I know that because my dad saw it. He's like, how the hell were you walking around? I don't know. After 45 days, your license is supposed to be suspended in Illinois. So at the time, I could keep my license up until I get my letter to the state. This is another little quick story I'll share with you. Mind you, I started going back into meetings. There's a local meeting I started going back to where there's probably 3 or 4 guys sitting in there that probably have over 100 years of recovery. So guess where I sat next to? There's Andy. He's the happiest little old man I ever seen in my life. Never understood that in the beginning. Ed, who became my sponsor, was kind of a very laid back, just chill kind of dude. He was kind of frail looking because he had diabetes, but he was such a cool guy. I loved him. And then Dan, I call him Reverend Dan, even though he's not a priest. We call him Reverend Dan. He's the hard-nosed, just tell you how it is. He loves you, but he'll tell you how it is and be very blunt. So I would listen to those 3 guys a lot. And I would listen to other people. I wouldn't shoot the messenger. So I'm like, if I'm going to make something of this damn thing, I gotta get in where I fit in, and I got to find these guys that are going to help me. So I started coattailing people. And Ed took me home one night from a meeting because I didn't have a car yet, and because I wrecked the car. And I was lining up to get another car for myself. So Ed took me home one night. We sat in the driveway at my parents because I moved back with my parents, and he shared a story with me. So he told me some things, and I'm looking over at him, and I'm like, okay, why is this guy sharing with me his whole life? Why is he doing this? So he got done sharing with me. He shared some things that most people probably get mad at him. And he looked at me, he goes, are you mad at me? I'm like, no. I said, Ed, I've heard worse than that, I said, do you mind being my temporary sponsor for right now? Sure. You know, he's like, I don't know what I'm going to be able to do to help you, but I'll try to help you. I remember him saying that. I'm like, well, I'll call you once a week. We'll show up to meetings once a week. We'll talk with each other, and we'll start getting the books, like, you know, like I'm supposed to do. That's what he said too. He's like, well, we'll start reading the books. So lo and behold, a few months later, he became my full-time sponsor. He's a car show guy. I love cars, trucks. I go to car shows. So he's a car show guy. He likes to do things. He tinkers with stuff. So I found somebody who has a like interest, even though he threw wrenches through a window here and there once in a while. And I remember him saying that. He's like, well, I'm the dumbass that's got to go back and pick it up. So he goes, don't do that. Don't throw wrenches because you got to go pick it up. So I'm like, all right, I'll take that advice. So after 6 months into sobriety, I was around January. I was driving my buddies. We're setting up some stuff for a DJ gig. And I wasn't going to DJ. I was just helping them out. So I'm driving around. I get pulled over. Cop pulls me over. He's like, Mr. Zamzow, you need to step out of the vehicle. I'm like, oh, frick, what did I do? He's like, well, we got to put you under arrest because you're driving under a suspended license. I'm like, well, I never got a letter in the mail. And I didn't. He's like, well, here says you're suspended. Okay, all right, I get it. So as far as me going into jail, I was in a holding cell as far as I went into jails. So I was in a holding cell in town here for a couple hours. I call my dad. I say, hey, you're going to have to come pick me up. I bailed myself out, called my lawyer the next day, and lo and behold, the next day the letter comes in the mail for my suspension of my license. So I had to go get that to my lawyer. My lawyer took care of it. In this town where I live in, they could take your vehicle. So if you have a suspended license, they could take your vehicle for that, keep it, and auction it off. I'm like, oh, by hell you're not. You know, there's no way, dude. I just bought that car. So luckily, I don't know what my dad said in that conversation, what happened. I was able to keep my car by the grace of God on that one. But if I would have lost it, oh well. I mean, that's the other thing in life. If I'm going to play, I'm going to pay, you know. But I'd say the first year of sobriety was one of the most interesting years because that's when I met Violet too.
So wait, you never drink again after the accident? That's your sobriety date?
No.
Oh.
It scared the shit out of me. 8/2 of 2008.
Wow. Okay.
Alcohol scared me that much. Alcohol scared me that much because of my near-death experience.
Yeah. Okay.
I looked at alcohol like, no way, dude. No way. Not doing it. Because I knew if I go back, I will be dead. I will be a done guy. I will be done. I'll be the guy in the obituary and the police blotter too. So, you know how that goes. I stayed away from it ever since. I don't care about it. It doesn't bother me today. I don't really care if somebody drinks next to me. I don't like the smell of it. I just don't like the smell. The smell bothers me. I walk away when I smell it. So in this time too, see, God was sending, I'll put it in the early direction, was sending people in my life that I didn't realize then, that I realize now are being put in place. You know how we don't meet people by accident? This is happening. And the woman I'm with today, we met each other when I was in my addiction, but I didn't think of anything else. We just kind of cordially said, hey, hello, how you doing? Nice to meet you. Well, after my accident, we started talking to each other. We started to meet each other. I didn't want a relationship. She didn't want a relationship. She was getting out of one on her end because it was pretty toxic. So we wanted to be friends and just hang out. Just go do stuff together. Go hang out. And we would go do just off the wall stuff. Just go hang out, play video games, do things that I guess normal people would do. And this is the weird thing is that I never knew what a healthy relationship was with another woman until I met her, which is weird. It was like foreign to me. I'm like, is this really how it's supposed to be? Is this how being with another woman's supposed to be? Like, this is how healthy is it supposed to be? And I remember Ed looked at me, he's like, well, yeah, that's how it's supposed to be, idiot. And we didn't really date until after, I'd say New Year's, like 6 months, 8 months after. We didn't really start dating, even though a few of my...
Is she sober also?
She's and this is the thing with her. She would drink socially here and there once in a great while. She quit drinking altogether after she got together with me.
Okay. She in solidarity with you because you're sober?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. She don't touch it at all.
But because of you?
To this day, she don't.
Because you're sober too? Yes. Oh, okay. That's nice.
And I didn't ask her to.
Yeah.
She just did it on her own. And she quit smoking, I think, a year after we were 6 months or somewhere around there. She quit smoking too, which I think was the best thing for her. But I've learned a lot with her over the years. I learned a lot how I'm not saying I'm the nicest guy sometimes either. I could probably be unbearable to deal with, but that was a whole new avenue in my life I never understood until I got into it. Nobody gave me a manual to say, here, this is how your relationship is, you know. I thoroughly enjoy our relationship, even though some days I probably don't show it, you know.
So I want to talk about your experience with 12-Step and your sponsor, because it clearly means a lot to you. Because like, it sounds to me like before this, in addition to the alcohol, you know, like the low self-esteem and the isolation and what sounds like some depression, how did recovery, sobriety, and the steps alleviate that for you?
There's a couple things, maybe more. Music played a big role too in the beginning.
Oh, that's cool. Okay, how? Tell me about that.
My friend Sean, God, I love that guy. He's such a good friend. Him and my buddy Jabans, a Jamaican friend. He always says, "Hey, Charlie, how you doing?" You know, he's got that accent. He's from San Francisco. I love him too, man. He's such a good dude. Them guys, they took me to a place where I never thought I could go mentally, as far as being able to believe in myself. Besides the 12 steps, besides my sponsor, besides Violet, there's a lot of factors I think played a role in that. He gave me some of his DJ equipment. Says, "Here, take this, go do a mix. I don't care what you do, just go do what you do." I'm like, so what I got from that is he had all his trust and faith in me and belief that I could do something with it. So I did. I ran with it. I came back 2 weeks later. I said, "Here's a 20-minute mix." So he's listening to it, and I'm looking over him like, he ain't going to like it. He ain't going to like it. He looked at me and goes, "Dude, what were you doing?" I'm like, "I don't know. I just took my emotions and my feelings and put it into that." So a lot of the DJ mixes that I've done, a lot of my emotions come from that. So there's always kind of like when you listen to it, there's some type of emotion you probably get from it. I don't know, but for me, whatever emotions I'm going through at the time, when I make it, that's what you get.
Are they in recovery? Is that how you met them, like at meetings?
No, these are two Earth people. Okay. I call them Earth people. These are two normies, Earth people.
Where'd you come up with Earth people? I kind of like that. That's your phrase for normies?
Yeah, my buddy Big Bob.
Okay. I call them civilians, just accidentally. I'll be like, I don't know, some civilian. Yeah. And I mean somebody that doesn't know us, you know. You know what's interesting to me, though? Because you talked about posing as art, DJing, making music as art. And I think that a way back in early sobriety is exploring creativity, which it sounds like you did. And for people, it's different, right? Like it could be, for me, it was teaching and music also. Making mixes. I don't remix songs, obviously, but I put them together for classes. And it's a huge part of my expression and my creativity. And I think that that's like a really cool aspect of your story, that you started making music again.
And along with the music, I still was into bodybuilding. I was still into training. Violet really respected that too. She's like, "Well, if you need help, I can meal prep something for you." She's still so good at that. She would help me along with a lot of that. I'm just like, I've never had this before. So I have to be forever grateful for that for her. You know, I have to give her flowers for that as well, is what I'll say. So I didn't do a first show back in recovery until September of 2009. I didn't look the greatest. It was the journey. I wasn't worried about the destination. I was worried about the journey at the time, figuring out who I am again in this. How am I going to evolve in this again? What am I going to do in this again? That's why I say I think there's a multitude of things of how I was coping and learning about myself, rediscovering who I am again. And I did probably 2 other shows after. The 2009. I was supposed to do one in 2010, which I got disqualified for because it was a full-blown natural show, and they go back 7 years for anything used as PEDs and anything that had a list, and I forgot to look at the list. I dieted for this show for 16 weeks. Needless to say, I didn't get upset because I understood. I did the polygraph test, and during the polygraph test, "Hey, did you use this?" And I said, "Shit, this isn't on this program." So I'm like, "Yeah, I used it from this date to this date."
Wait. Hold on. They polygraph you for bodybuilding?
Certain natural shows will polygraph you, and if you win the class, they will piss test you at the end.
So you did...
Because a certain...
You're saying injectables. That's steroids, right? Is that what that means?
I've never used any injectables. I've used an oral pro hormone back in 2008-ish.
Okay. And that's what disqualified you.
Yeah.
Okay.
The promoter, who I'm friends with today still, he called me up the next day and he goes, "Chuck, I actually wanted you to compete because you were that honest. I'm like, well, Ray, I said, you know what, brother? I said, it is what it is. I get it. If I don't do your show this year or next year, maybe I'll do it some other time down the line. It's not a big deal, man. I get it. Which set me up for my final show that I did in 2011 that I've ever done since then, which, God damn, I had so much fun doing that show. I think that's where a lot of things are cultivating in my recovery, too, where, like, things were starting to click, things were starting to come together, that I could understand that I can have fun doing this without even thinking, because within the first year or so, alcohol wasn't even a thing in my mind. I'd say maybe after 6-8 months. I don't know. I remember Andy would say, well, I don't know, after about a year or so, I don't know, I never thought about alcohol again. I don't know what happened. And then like, well, that's BS. That's probably not going to happen with me. Well, lo and behold, it happened with me. And I'm like, damn, man. So then when I did that final show, I'm sitting there clapping on stage after the posing routine. I'm doing this, having fun, high-fiving everybody. I never did that in any other show. I never cared about the next person next to me. I never did. But until that final show, I'm like, I started showing that, okay, I actually do give a rat's tail about somebody else.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well, I think that's what sobriety does. It's like we were wearing black and white glasses and we take them off and the world is color again, you know, and in all the ways, you know, the joy of relationships with other people and being able to, I went to a 10-year sober birthday party on Friday night and it was all these women from AA and I never wanted to be a part of AA ever in my life. And I had this moment Friday night where I was standing in this room and there was just true, and I didn't even know any of them, but I just had this awareness of like, this is a good, joyful feeling that I never thought that I would have sober. And like, I am, you know what I mean?
Right. Oh, I get it.
So you're making music, you have your relationship, you're getting back into bodybuilding. Those are the ways that you're getting to know yourself again. What did the steps offer you as well in terms of getting to know yourself?
Well, as far as the steps, you know, there's 2 parts. I always call them 2-part steps. I had a problem with alcohol. My life wasn't managed. That's a 2-part step to me. I didn't differentiate it, but I put it side by side. Like alcohol was my symptom. My life is unmanageable. So how am I going to make my life more manageable now without alcohol? Pretty easy. Well, I shouldn't say easy, but at the time it wasn't really daunting, but I'm like, I was so scared of the damn stuff anyways after that. I'm like, I'm going to do what I got to do. So I started doing the exact opposite of a lot of things that I wanted to do. So I started getting hooked up with people that knew how to manage money. Violet's really good with money too. So she kind of gave me some tips. My father gave me some numbers to call in the beginning to get my life back in order because my credit score was a crap. It was everything. It was nothing. But I was able to reach out now and start being able to develop how to start solving some things that were happening in my life. You know, step 2, we're talking about being able to what higher power. I'm not a religious guy, and the reason why I'm not a religious guy because I think I can benefit from everything on that aspect. I developed a power greater than myself that I understand today, and I don't know what it is. I do not know what it is, but I know it's something that has given me a life beyond my wildest dreams, if that makes sense. It's given me the people in my life and my path, whether they're here for 5 minutes, 5 years. It's given me all those aspects in a sense. And I respect my higher power a lot. And a quick story on that, how I developed and understood that something greater than myself was helping me is that when first about 3 months of my recovery, my hospital bill came in. It was over 10 grand. And I've shared this a few times in other places. I didn't know how I was going to pay for that because I had no insurance at the time. So my dad's like, hey, go fill out some paperwork at the hospital, see if somebody will come up and pay for it as like a pay it forward kind of thing. It's like a grant or something. So I am like, all right, whatever. I didn't believe him. So I went and signed the paperwork, sent it in. Month later comes back, my hospital bill is paid in full.
Like through a grant of some sort?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, some charity came in and paid. Some charity came in and paid for it, and I'm like, no way. I looked at it and showed my dad, like, you see this? He's like, now what did I tell you? Now, I'm going to suggest, he goes, I'm probably sure one of your sponsors is going to suggest this. Go get a thank you card. Go hand it to them personally. So what does that tell me? I have to do some action. So I have to go do something uncomfortable to be comfortable. and humble myself and just go do it. So I did. I go down there and I'm like, oh, I wanted to give a thank you card to what charity that, that paid this bill for me. And the lady's like, she looked at me like I was an alien because they've never had that before. Somebody coming down being grateful for saying, hey, thank you for paying this for me. And I'm like, can you please just, whoever did it, just forward them. That's all I asked. Which they must have. So to this day, they must have. So that's where I got the understanding of a higher power right then and there. Like, okay, something's working. And, step 3, being able to turn it over. It's like that little kid with the ball on the court. I want to take my own ball and just leave. I don't want to give you the ball back. It's like the 3 frogs on a log. One frog's going to jump, another frog's going to jump, and then that final frog thinks about it and they jump. They just did it. So I always like being in control of things. So this part of the steps, I was like, well, if the God of my understanding is doing that for me, I think I can just hand over the steering wheel and say, here, brother, go with it. Now I'll sit in the passenger seat and enjoy the ride with you for right now. I'm not saying I do it perfectly all the time, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
Let me ask you about that, because that's the hardest part for me. Also, what does the 3 frogs mean? It means following along with other people?
Make a decision. Am I going to make a decision?
Oh, okay. Oh, got it. Okay.
My buddy Big Bob taught me that one.
Okay. The hardest thing for me is the idea of riding in the passenger seat. So like, I just heard this recently. You might have heard this phrase before. If you have a goal, if you have an intention and then you give it attention, then the thing will grow or get better. And that's totally true for me, right? Like that's how I owned my studio. I dedicated all of my attention to the place, ended up owning it, whatever. But there's a third part that I just recently heard to that, which is you have an intention, you give it attention, and then no tension, meaning you don't stress out about it, having trust that the right thing will happen or whatever. I don't even know, because I really struggle with that. What does it look like for you? Okay. What does it mean? Like, what would that look like for you to ride in the passenger seat of something? I don't know. I'm very bad at that.
I'm going to enjoy the scenery.
All right.
Why do I need to worry about what's going on?
So does that mean just enjoying the moment?
I'm going to enjoy it because I have given my girly direction the trust, everything. I have handed it over and said, go for it. Because I know right then and there, it's going to show me things that I would have never thought to have seen in my life, if that makes sense.
It does. So when you say enjoy the scenery, you mean like be present in the moment. Okay. So like for me, I'm always trying to build social media and the show and shit. So like rather than constantly checking things, actually be present in this moment.
That's what I try to do today. That's what I instilled in my pigeon, my sponsee.
Yeah.
He always worried about the future and worried about everything. I said, bro, slow down, man. It's not a race. Just chill out. As my mom always says, stop and smell the roses. I get it now. I never used to. I was like, I gotta go. And I gotta be in control. I gotta do this. I gotta do that. No, just chill out, take a breather, and enjoy what's going on. I really liked how your rendition was with the 12 steps on your last podcast about that too. I listened to you're talking about that. Step 4 wasn't really that big of a. Some people make that like a huge deal. It's not an immoral inventory. It's a moral inventory. I put myself on the list first because I'm the guy that beat myself up first, and then everything else. There was some good things I did too. It's not all bad. I was grateful I shared with Ed my 5th step, my sponsor, and he went to the grave with some things I shared with him. I'm going to go to the grave that he shared things with me. And that was the best bag of garbage I could leave off to the side of the street that I didn't have to deal with anymore. That was the beginning of the end of, the beginning of the end of me being able to progress, to go further in this deal. Step 6, do I still have character defects? Do I still have... Yeah, I think we all do, but the shortcomings there, just don't do it again. I'll share this with you too. I think you'll understand this. My buddy Bob shared this with me before, because he's kind of another pivotal guy in my recovery today. I really like his no-nonsense approach on certain things. We get along really well when we talk. Step 7, 8, 9, making that list. If I made a good 4-step list, that 8-step list should be pretty easy to do. It's like My Name is Earl. That's what I think of the step 8 and 9.
That show is so good. Doesn't that show seem like 12-step? He's making an amends. In fact, I wonder, that's so funny that you just said that. I haven't thought about that show in a long time, but I've always wondered when I used to watch it, if the creator was in AA. I mean, it's fucking LA.
I wonder too.
They might have been. He's making an amends, but every amends ends up benefiting him greatly as he clears up his life.
The meetings I go to around here, when we start talking about the 8th and 9th step, August, September, for the steps, I always bring up my name as Earl and people start laughing because it's true.
Totally true.
But do I really need to run out and make those amends right now? No. A lot of those amends slapped me upside the face where I dealt with it at certain points in my life. Talking about my mom. I remember 5 years after being in recovery, my mom looked over at me and she says, I got my son back. That to me right there was part of that amends. That was my living amends with her. My dad, I think it was probably the same way, but I don't think I really sat down with him yet. I don't think he would want me to, but I would anyways, just for my own benefit, because I'd rather have that side of the street clean. My motive on that. And it's not an ill motive. It's just hey, dude, my dad's 75. I mean, they ain't getting any younger.
The parents are the hardest to make, though, I think, because so my dad is one of the first ones I did, but I didn't get my dad for much money. He's slick. I got $150 from him ever in 15 years. That's it. Very easy to pay back. My mom killed herself for me. I mean, it was like when I got married, the night before I got married, I gave her and my bridesmaids and I had a groomsman on my side. I gave them a little keychain that said something about them. And the one for her said, my mother wove her spirit with mine so that she, basically her spirit and mine were weaved together in a thread that was stronger with hers tied up in mine. And that's what she did for me. I'm alive because of her. And it was so hard for me to make amends to her because of that. It was too big. It was too big. And I didn't do it until she left about a year ago. She left San Diego. She moved back to North Carolina. And I finally went over there the day before she moved because they were driving cross country. And I was like, fucking, what if something happens to her? I have to do this. It's been a long time. And I sat down with her and sobbed and was like, and I stole $120 from her. Not a lot, right? And they don't have a lot. So I paid her back, but it wasn't even the money. It was looking at her with everything she did for me was almost impossible. Same thing with my husband. He just made amends to his mom when she was visiting us. And he has destroyed her life. Destroyed. And he just couldn't say sorry. You know what I mean? He just couldn't. It's so hard. You know what I mean? And my mom told me she had wondered over the years, is she ever going to apologize to me? Because I know that's one of her steps, but she never said that. Yeah. And my mother-in-law said that to me too over the weekend. My husband ran out for a minute and she was like, he read me this letter and said sorry. And I have wondered before, is he ever going to say sorry? So we should, but it's really hard. And it's not because we don't care. It's because with those people, we care so much. It's hard, I
always said to people, what can I do right instead of saying sorry? How can I make things right?
Yes, that's what he said.
Because the sorry game was kind of out the door at that point. They're like, yeah, whatever.
Right, totally.
I mean, I've done a lot of my amends. There's some that I haven't yet because I just haven't run into that person yet.
Me too.
And it's not that I don't want to seek them out, because I feel like if I go start seeking them out, I feel like I'm pushing the process.
Yeah. Also, life and we all have stuff that we have to do, and it's not avoiding it. It's I think we have to give ourselves a little bit of grace too. There's a lot of amends. You're busy. You're in a relationship. I'm busy. I'm doing my best. You know what I mean? I'm doing my best. It's a continuous process, so.
The prayer meditation, step 10, doing the daily inventory, that's not too bad. I can do that any time of the day. I like doing spot check inventories.
Okay. What does that look like?
For me, I do it all. I do it anytime.
What do you do? What do you say?
To myself or just to the person?
Yeah. What's the process you run through when you do a spot check inventory? What does that look like?
Sometimes it's pen to paper. I'll take a notebook out, start writing things down. That's the one thing I got taught right away. Pen to paper, Chuck. That's been drilled in this head. Something's going on. Any decision making is pen to paper. What's the pros and cons? And I've done a lot of decision making with that. That's my inventory as far as that is pen to paper usually, because I have a built-in forgetter, so I don't want to forget. Prayer and meditation, that's a biggie for some people, I think. And meditation, I don't mind praying because I don't foxhole prayer. I don't do none of that stuff. I just pray that whatever's going on, I usually pray for somebody else. I don't really pray for me. I don't. I'm not the most important person in the world. I want to pray for somebody else a lot of times. Like, hopefully that things are going well with that person today. Like my twin sis, she's got some issues going on health-wise, so I'll pray for her. I did that this morning. And my meditation, that could be any time of the day. Like before I got on with you today, I took a walk around the park and did some meditation.
What meditation do you do?
I have practiced Zen in a lot before, so I'm kind of getting back into
What
that
is that?
style of meditation.
I don't know what that means.
It's a form of meditation through martial arts.
Oh, okay.
Actually, I'll send you a picture of the book that I've read.
Is it like movement-based meditation? I'm picturing Tai Chi.
A lot of it's breathing.
Okay.
It's a lot of it's breathing. It's a lot of a breathing style for me. That's what I focus on, is the breathing style, being able to control, because sometimes I'll get anxiety, so I'll control that with breathing. I don't like to do anything else but that, because for me it works. It might work for somebody else too, I don't know, but Zen has always worked for me as far as meditational parts, and it actually is kind of relaxing. It brings me back even keel, where the bubble's in the middle of that level for right now. So I don't get overwhelmed on either end of the spectrum of it. It's step 12. Carry the message. That's a big part for me. Being able to carry the message to the person coming in the rooms, or somebody that's meeting on a Zoom meeting. Like I was on the in-person Zoom meeting on Hopeaholics last night. I'm quite the regular with them, but the new person means a lot to me, plus the people who've been around mean a lot to me too. And being able to share what goes on with me in my recovery, and sharing with the people that are in the rooms, outside the rooms, that I'm not doing this just by myself. I got a whole other people with me as an army that we're taking care of this deal. I don't sponsor but one guy, but I do a lot of, I've been starting to get into like temporary sponsoring with guys that are coming in, because I don't sponsor women, because I don't believe in that. I've seen it happen in other meetings. I'm like, dude, come on. How am I going to talk to another woman and what's going on with her?
Wait, you've seen opposite gender sponsoring? I've never seen that. I thought it was like a rule.
A couple times. Well, it is a rule in my book.
Yeah, I thought it was like worldwide rule. I didn't know you could ever break that.
I've seen some people sponsor women. I'm like, dude,
interesting.
She's a woman. How are you going to? I said, I'm not trying to sound gross or anything. I mean, what if she's going through that thing once a month? How are you going to deal with that? How are you going to be able to talk to her about that?
You're like the most Midwest guy ever. I can't believe you just said that. What if she's going through that thing? That was cute. That was really cute. But you're right. There's a reason for that. No, there's a reason for that. Or what if you start thinking they're hot? That's a real problem.
See? Come on. And I've seen it on other ends with women hitting on men.
That's what I mean. Yeah. Any opposite.
It's like,
yeah.
When I got back into the program, I did not want to date anybody at all in recovery. I wanted an earth person because.
Yeah, okay.
And Violet understands me more than I understand myself.
Yeah.
Period. And she says it all the time. She says, I know you better than you know your damn self. I'm like, yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. I'll agree with her on that. But I mean, carrying a message to the next person that's sick and suffering, man. And I see a lot of this Recover Out Loud, which I'm not against it. I mean, that's why I try to protect my traditions, because the traditions are for the group. That is for the group. The steps are for the individual.
Yeah.
And that's how I'll separate that.
Yeah, totally. I try to get around it by saying 12-step instead of AA, which I've probably said AA a bunch today. But I try to say 12-step instead of the group, because someone told me that would respect the tradition of anonymity.
It would. I'll give them that.
Because I'm not saying I am a part of a certain group. I'm just delineating. It's almost like if I said a support group. Do you know what I mean? It's pretty vague. Is how I kind of try to manage that. Sure.
I mean, I deal with a lot of cross addiction now, and some people are like, when they meet me, they're like, "You just drank alcohol?" I'm like, "Yeah." You didn't get anything else? No. I said, "But I'm not special." I mean, I've been around this stuff. I know how people act. I know when somebody's kind of BSing me. Like my sponsee, if he was go out to get high, I get it. He actually gave me an NA book to read because I asked him for one. I said, hey, where can I get an NA book so I can understand that aspect of recovery too, so I can understand it, so that I'm not just that old-timer AA guy that's like, all right, well, it's this way and that way. I said, there's many avenues for people to go. That's just the beauty of this thing now with the internet and the treatment centers. Like if people come into meetings, I strongly suggest people, if they have to use therapy, along with recovery, there's nothing wrong with that. There's not a one-all be-all. Not just because I don't go to a therapy doesn't mean that somebody else, they go for it. If it works, it works. Why try to reinvent the wheel? The Recover Out Loud thing it took me a while to get used to because I was so stuck in my traditions. Like, if I step out, am I breaking something? Am I doing something? It's not that I care if some people see me outside the room saying, well, he's in recovery, and I'm not holding up a big sign saying, hey, I'm in this and I'm here to do this. No, I'm not doing that like it says in the book. So I got to be really careful. Also be respectful.
Well, the other thing that I look at, though, too, is there are so many people that don't have access to meetings all the time like we do. People don't have cars, or they're in the middle of wherever and, they don't know. Or like even me, I had access to a lot of things, but I had this idea of 12-step, which was probably the meeting you just referenced with Andy and Ed and the other guy. That's what I thought 12-step was, just guys like that. And I was like, I don't have anything in common with them. Now, obviously I do, but 27-year-old me didn't think that, right? And so like with someone like me sharing, someone like you sharing, somebody like Natalie, Eva, from Hopeaholics and Chad and all them, like it gives a face to what recovery actually looks like and makes it more appealing, hopefully, is the goal.
Well, it's traction rather than promotion.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
That's what got me back in the rooms because I seen guys having a life like, how are they living like that? What are they doing? What am I not doing? How are they doing it? So I walk over like, hey brother, why are you like this? How are you this? What are you doing? What's your secret? They're like, there's no secret. And they start explaining to me. That's why sticking around after the meetings or getting there before 10, 15 minutes before, that's the bread and butter for me. Because then those small conversations, man, when talking with people, comparing notes as I call it, and being like, okay, I'll take a little of this and I'll put it back and we'll try it later. I take what works and just run with it.
Yeah, totally.
Like I said, I'm not going to reinvent the wheel, man. There's no way.
Something you said earlier that I really love that I don't think I've ever heard before is doing something uncomfortable to be comfortable, getting uncomfortable to be comfortable. I really love that idea. And what's one of your favorite things you've heard from one of these old timer guys? Something like that.
You know what? Hold on. I got a book with me. I'll look as I write things down. Hold on.
Like a phrase or a saying or, you know what I mean? One of those like AA things or 12-step things.
Nuts. Not using the steps.
Okay. I like that.
Or
that's pretty funny.
There's time. The word time, I put it down, things I must earn. I mean, I got a few. And my buddy Mark, he said, I'd rather stay green and grow rather than stay ripe and rot. I want to stay here and learn instead of just being complacent and not learn.
Oh, I like that too.
I think that's kind of how I got it from him. I didn't really ask him completely, but
no, that's totally what that means. You're right. I think that's what that means.
And usually when I start talking in the meeting, I always say I'm grateful I woke up today instead of coming to, because I came to in a lot of places, man. I came to in fields, and I remember one time before I got sober, this was a few months before I got sober, I came to in somebody's vehicle that I thought was mine. I must have walked out of the bar and got in the truck that I thought was my car that was on the other side of the building. And 6 a.m, I hear a window knocking, and I come to and I look over and I'm like, who's this guy? And I'm like, wait a minute, this isn't my car. I passed out in his truck, slept for like 2 or 3 hours. He was coming to pick it up from being out the night before.
That's really funny.
So that I knew right then and there something was bad. That was not good.
Dude, I just remember this. I've never shared this story. When I lived in Venice, when I lived in LA, I was dating this guy and he had a Jeep. And we were in a bar and we got out and we got in the Jeep. Same color, everything, burgundy. His key unlocked it. And as we got in the car, there was an M&M pillow. You know how there's the M&M characters with like the hands with the white glove? There was one of those, a big pillow in the passenger seat. And like, he and I were together for years. We lived together. I've been in that Jeep a million times. I had been in that Jeep on the way to the bar just a few hours prior. But I open the door and I see an M&M pillow. And I'm like, oh, cool. And I pick it up and put it on my waist. And I'm holding it on my chest. And he gets in the car, shuts the door. And suddenly he just freezes. And he's like, wait. And I was like, what? Holding this M&M pillow I've never seen before. And he was like, something's wrong. Get out of the car. This isn't our car. And I was like, oh my God. And I threw the pillow down and got out of the car. And when we found ours, which was like just a couple of spots down, we got in the car and he was like, how did you not realize when there was an M&M pillow that you've never seen before? And I was like, I don't know. I wasn't thinking about it. And he like fucking panicked. I forgot about that till right now, till you just said that. We were both hammered. And then, of course, he drove us home. Well, I cannot thank you enough for your time. I've taken up a lot of your time this afternoon, and I so appreciate you sharing your story and reaching out to come on the show. How do you feel after sharing everything?
Good.
You do? Okay, good. Okay, awesome. Good. I'm glad to hear that.
I'll share something real quick before we jump off. My buddy Ed did pass away, my original sponsor. He passed away, 4 years ago this week. And I will say this, he was a very instrumental man in my life. So I do have another gentleman that I talk with, another couple guys I actually talk with here and there about things because they know my story, they know who I am, and they can call me on my BS. Those are the two guys I know. Big Bob's one of them because I talk about him a lot, obviously. Because we ran into the store yesterday with each other, and we just sat there in the middle of Walmart talking with each other, like oblivious and not caring about anybody else in the world around us. And we're talking program, not caring. I did want to share that a little bit because that man was like another father. And these guys right now, I know they're not going to live forever, but they're going to be just as instrumental around me just as he was. He laid down the groundwork. So he laid down the tools for me, and I took it and ran. But I do really appreciate you having me on here because this is the first time I've actually shared a little extensively on my story that I've never really done before, which feels pretty damn good. I hope what I share today reaches to somebody. That's all I can do. It
absolutely will. It absolutely will. There's value in so many different perspectives, you know, like the pregnancy termination issue. I've never spoken to a guy on the other side of that who had any opinion about it. Do you know what I mean? Who was like, no, you know, so it absolutely will reach people. And I just appreciate so much your honesty and willingness to share and be vulnerable, you know? Sure.
Anytime. Well, I might be coming out to California at some point.
Oh, cool. Come take one of my classes.
If I can get halfway through, I'll try.
You're a bodybuilder. You'd be fine.
I'm okay. If I can make it halfway through,
it's pretty different. I'm lying. I'm totally lying. Strength training and spin is very different, which you know. So that.
Oh yeah, but I still like bikes though. So
yeah,
definitely.
You'd have a lot of fun. You got to let me know if you're out here.
I will.
Well, thank you so much again. I really appreciate it.
Sure. I appreciate it too.